Broadcasting around the world, this is On the Record with Christian Briggs. Serious talk about what's happening around the world and how it affects you. Unfiltered truth for a world on edge. Follow us on X at BMC_HAM. Live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Christian Briggs. You are on the record. And today's show, we are going to be talking about this billionaires, millionaires, everybody net worth tax. You know, what I'm going to kind of go into detail is, how did this thing even come about? Where was the insanity put on the table from which legislators within the California political world could have come up with something so stupid? But then again, I always said, you know, there's only fruits and nuts in California. Take your pick. So, you know, at the end of the day, it may be one of those moments where we'll never be able to define how dumb somebody can be until they do things like this. And when they do things like this, we can't understand how dumb they can be.
We have collected over 1.5 million signatures.
The campaign behind another high-profile ballot initiative announced they're ready to move forward.
And the most important, we are filing those signatures today.
So today's show is going to be on California billionaire, millionaire tax, 5% of your net worth. And if you think this is just a one-time deal, oh, no. This thing has got layers in it. This has got more hair on it than Bigfoot or Sasquatch. And when I say hair, I'm talking about the kind of hair that not even lasering is going to get off you. Oh, no, this is that permanent stuff, kind of like when you're real sweaty and all that hair just kind of piles up and drips of sweat. This is worse. This is stinky. This is backstabbing, backdoor politics at its finest. This is one of those moments where politicians have now come together to systematically destroy the incredible genius of technology and agriculture and real estate billionaires to systematically pay for things like illegal aliens. And I'm not talking about the ones that come from Mars or Venus or God knows wherever else these crazy climate control, tree hugging people talk about. I'm talking about illegal aliens that are coming in this country unlawfully. Now, let's talk about this stupid tax. Let's talk about how dumb is dumb. Well, I'm going to explain to you how dumb. You know, I once said there are certain people that have the capability to be walking brain donors. Oh, yeah, you didn't know that? Sure. Let me explain to you something. There are people out there today that have the capabilities to be able to literally walk, talk, sit, stand, go to work, go home, drive a car. However, based on their level of intelligence, can't see that when you overtax and that money that you're trying to literally decapitate these guys who have created industries of trillions of dollars, and you're trying to decapitate them and punish them in such a way for the success of adding millions and tens of millions and hundreds of billions of dollars to your economy, you are a true walking brain donor. You know, I'll say to you a step further. I think that all legislation should be done in Braille. And no disrespect to people that can't see, because these people can't think, can't see, can't hear, can't talk. They don't do anything other than create stuff that is detrimental. So if we make it in Braille, at least you can't yell at them too much because they're blind. But these people can see 20/20. The only problem is all they see is cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. You got a nickel, they want a dime. You got a dollar, they want a 20. It's incredible to think that these people can actually pay their own bills. Oh, wait a second. They don't. The taxpayer pays their bills. I forgot that part. Okay, now it's making sense. Dumb, stupid idiots are going out telling everybody, most of these guys now in the legislature, in California, they've never had jobs, not real jobs. How many people in the state of California legislators I'm going to say maybe less than 10% are billionaires, multimillionaires, starting from scratch. We're behind the eight ball. We're in debt before they even started and then built this. I guarantee none of those guys are going to vote for this thing. There's no way. Why would they? They know better. They know that when you take all the incentive away, when you make it so hard that hope can't even be a part of the equation, can't even be a part of the equation of everyday working. Go to work and you're like, oh, look, I need to move a 10,000 pound rock. Now, I'm looking at that rock. That rock's big. That rock is really big. In fact, that rock is so big that I'm almost ashamed to say I can't move it, but I can't move it by myself. It's so big that I'm not even going to waste my time trying. I'd rather just sit at home and look at it in despair and be disappointed because I have no hope of moving that rock up that hill. 10,000 pounds? That rock weighs more than a Range Rover, fully loaded. Okay. SV version, extended version, which is about 8,000 pounds. You ain't going to move that up a hill. That Range Rover will move you down the hill as it runs you over. Okay. You'll might as well have to go to IHOP because you're going to be as flat as their number one top selling pancakes. So now you're asking the entire citizenship, literally the citizenship. If people think that this 5% tax is going to come off as being a success in the measure of revenue generation, let me tell you how well it worked for the VAT tax in Europe. They pushed it through, economics went down, and they still have it. And the economics had never been the same. The productivity down, sales down. We had a luxury tax back in the 90s. Oh, that was a wonderful. Oh, Clinton, we need a luxury tax for all those rich people that can afford those big ticket items. Yeah, well, those big ticket items like Cadillacs and Corvettes, do you know how many jobs those create? And they're union jobs, they're good jobs, high paying jobs, healthcare, benefits, 401, profit sharing, destroyed industries for about 4 years. Thank God that was repealed. In fact, I'm going to tell you a story. The wealth tax, or you want to call it the luxury tax, whichever you want to call it, but the same thing. That luxury / wealth tax back in the 90s, for every dollar generated, it lost $6 in previous sales numbers. Oh, yeah. This thing was so dumb, so backwards thought that the original authors of this crazy thing had never been in business. I'm not even sure they knew what a business was. Kind of like, when people try to put in the gas nozzle into an electric vehicle, or they get an electric vehicle and then they don't realize it doesn't take gas altogether. I've seen both. I've seen people try to find like a rental. They take an electric vehicle and they're renting it. I mean, I'm not trying to make fun of them. It's kind of funny because it just shows you they didn't think through what they were doing or maybe what they were experiencing when they rented an electric vehicle. I've seen them. They're looking for this. Where's the gas thing? Where do you put the gas in? And you kind of like rub your forehead going, oh my God, they rented an electric vehicle. And you don't want to, say it out loud, because they may not know any better. But these California politicians, they know better. Let's talk a little bit about just how bad this tax is.
Would impose a one-time 5% tax on the assets of more than 200 billionaires living in the state. It would factor in their stocks, art, and collectibles, and their intellectual property.
First, how many taxes do you think there are in California? Taxes and fees that people pay each year. Okay, let's take this. I got to pull my notes back up here. This is really good. You ready? So, yeah, here we go. This is going to be fun. Okay, sales tax varies. In some cases, like parts of the country, in California, obviously, they have. Oh my gosh, Yeah, hear my notes real quick. This is fun. This is fun. California has one of the highest is one of the nation's highest tax combined burdens when you add about here. Let me just go right to the. I'm not even going to read the fancy words. Listen, let's just go right to the meat. Your progressive income tax goes from 13.3 to 14.4. That's on top of your federal, your Social Security, and look into the sales tax. Oh, here we go. All right, here we go. So on sales tax, you got 7.25% to 10.25% sales tax and a 1% base property tax. Residents pay numerous state and local fees on fuel, cigarettes, cannabis, utilities. I mean, okay, I don't want to say how many there are. Let me just go through this. Income tax. Graduate rates range from 1% to 13.3 with an additional 1% on income over 1 million. Sales and use tax, 7.25, but it goes up to as high as 10.25 in many areas. General 1% property taxes, generally a 1% of assessed value capped by Proposition 13. So you pay your normal local real estate tax plus a 1% tax. That's wonderful. You have payroll taxes, gas taxes, among the highest in the nation, almost 71 cents per gallon based on a lower priced gasoline. Right now, it's a percentage of the gas price, so it goes up. The amount of cents per gallon of the tax goes up because it's a percentage of how much you're paying for the gallon at the time you buy it. So a gallon of gas is $4 or $40. The amount of tax you pay is subsequently equal as a percentage to the 4 or the 40. So when people say, oh, I'm paying 71 cents at $4 maybe, but at $40, you're going to pay $7 and let's just say $7, almost $8. Think about that. I mean, theoretically, a $40 gallon of gas doesn't, people think, oh, that's crazy. Is it really crazy? Look what we're going to be going to 12 or 14, 15, are already creating more taxes on gas. The average state and local collections are over $10,319 per person, the third highest in the nation. California's tax system is highly progressive, in other words, for communism, with the highest rates impacting the top 5% of the earners. Yeah, I know. I'll get into some numbers here that are insanely crazy. Like if you're living in California or hearing our show, and there's a lot of people who do listen to it in California, I don't blame you for wanting to leave and be pissed. I mean, even my dear friends who are say moderate Democrats have had enough. They're like, I can do business anywhere in the country. Maybe I take a little bit less of a paycheck, but at least I don't feel like I'm being like a slave to the system. I'd rather make a little bit less, pay a lot less in taxes, but not giving away my tax money to things that do absolutely nothing to increase my standard of living or my way of life, or other than it just happens. They take it and they use that money for things that are completely against the Constitution that President Trump is desperately trying to fight, to push back on. So if you look at like this billionaires tax, let's go into this. This is where it gets kind of good. This proposal in California to temporarily is a word that they don't even know. They're lying. They do not use that word. They use the word to lie to you, but it's not a real word, because temporarily is not a word that any politician ever uses, because it doesn't show the truth. It doesn't explain the truth. It doesn't define the truth. What it does is it masks the truth. It covers up the truth. So the California is proposing to temporarily increase taxes on billionaires has enough signatures to qualify for the November ballot as of yesterday.
With our signatures, we are demanding that billionaires pay their fair share so our hospitals, clinics, and emergency rooms can stay open. California voters have shown they are ready to fight to avoid healthcare cuts that will hurt millions.
A labor union back in the measure is saying this is going to be great. This is fantastic. For who? You want to tax these people. They're spending. I don't know the exact number, but I heard rumors that Bill Gates, I'm not a big fan of him by any means, vaccine, Epstein Gates, according to what I've seen on the online, and when Melinda Gates, she talked about his relationship to Epstein, how she didn't like it. So he's not a likable guy. He doesn't come across as a likable guy, but he does and has created a lot of jobs. So I got to respect that. I don't have to like him for his politics or his business partners or friends, but you got to respect the guy for creating. I'd rather have him create Microsoft than some company in other parts of the world, because we benefit from it. If you look at what he spends on a yearly basis to maintain his lifestyle, it's like $100 million a year, maybe more. I've heard people say as high as $200 million. And that may be the case. I can tell you this, the way he lives and flies and does that in all those different things, it's probably 50 million plus $100 million. I would not be surprised if it's over 200 million. He got the cash. But you got to like that in a sense, because he's putting money back into the economy that otherwise might have been somewhere in some foreign nation. We don't get the benefit of that. So there's nothing wrong with being successful, because when you're successful, you're creating value, you're creating economics. He is absolutely great for the economy. Sergey Brin, Larry Page, Larry Ellison. Look at his son, David. He's a rock star when it comes to media assets, identifying undervalued assets and going forward. And Dad's been a big help for that and really been a big champion. Look at the whole Warner Brothers takeover. Phenomenal. 110 or $12 billion. That's going to go into shareholders' pockets. They're going to spend that money. The revenue from that is going to be amazing. And the taxation from a federal level to a state level, that money is going to literally change hands 5 to 6 times over the next decade. That's a phenomenal deal. Phenomenal. Because they're smart guys, but they're not stupid enough to pay a 5% net worth tax. What the hell is that about? You're penalizing people. The proposal, which was backed by the Service Employees International Union for Healthcare Workers West. Man, that's a long name. I hope that's not the entire name in their email. John.Smith at Service Employees International Union Healthcare Workers West.com. That can get lost in translation. They would impose a one-time 5% tax on individuals whose net worth exceeds $1 billion, who are living in the state as of January 1st of 26. The goal is to generate $100 billion in revenue, which will largely be used to offset federal funding cuts to healthcare for low-income people. It isn't for low-income people completely and not exclusively. This bad boy is going right into the illegal aliens' pockets. It's going into service. There's never been, hey, how did that high-speed rail money, $13 billion, work out for the state of California and all the people that was given? Trump is like, where's that money? I think they built 6 inches of rail. Now, I don't know where San Francisco to LA to San Francisco, or San Francisco, LA to San Diego, what the entire length of that thing was. But they spent like 12 or $13 billion. And what they got for it was 6 inches of rail. If they had paid me $1 billion, I could have guaranteed them 6 feet of rail. No problem. I'll do it. I'll give you 6 feet of rail. I'll even give you the train. And I'm still going to have $900 million left over to squander. They squandered somewhere between 12 and $13 billion. I think 8.7 was the initial, and then they got more federal funding under brain donor Sleepy Joe Biden. So they got even more money. And then where did it go? Well, it didn't go toward rail. And you're telling me you're going to raise $100 billion from hardworking guys, men and women, families that are generational wealth, from agriculture to technology to real estate to oil and gas distribution, pipeline systems, and refineries. And California's been around forever, generations. And you're telling me that you're going to raise $100 billion. You're going to literally put $100 billion in the California political system. I call it, it's a system. It's almost like gangsters. The supermajority in California is like gangsters. Gangsters take, they don't give. I mean, they'll give you a hard time if you don't let them have their money. Your money is their money. Haven't you noticed that? I never met a gangster that didn't appreciate a great dollar bill or 100. I never met a politician that didn't appreciate a great revenue. But with Democrats and the Socialist Communist Democratic Party, it's all about the take. What's the take this month, this quarter, this year? Well, the take this year is going to be $100 billion if this measure passes in November into next year. and you think it's one time. No, I don't think it's going to be one time. And it's just for billionaires. No, read page 26. Go to the fine print. This thing is going to cascade down to people in the $1 million net worth eventually. It's going to go from 1 billion to 100 million to 50 million to 20 million. If you've ever wanted to crap your pants over a subject matter, this is the one, because what starts in California spreads. It spreads. And let me tell you something about that. California, they say this is, hold on, I got to read this quote to you. Okay, here we go. California's health is at stake. Before I make this next comment, I got to tell you this quote. California's health is at stake, said Liz Perlman, executive director of a chapter of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, a major labor union. Okay? Hospitals are closing and people will die. They will die, she said. Why? So many billionaires can get another tax cut that they don't need. Listen, if we don't do this 5% net worth tax, these people are going to die. I think I heard that once with the vaccine. If you don't get the vaccine, you're going to die. And you're going to kill everybody around you. I think that Joe Biden said that once. You're going to kill people or die or become disfigured. And you're going to be a drain on the system, an unproductive individual. So we're going to euthanize you anyway. I kind of was what it sounds like. Let me read this again. California's health is at stake, said Liz Perlman, executive director of a chapter of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, which is a major labor union in California. Sounds right. Hospitals are closing and people will die. The California Secretary of State still has to verify the signatures and officially place the measure on the ballot. Backers say they collected more than 1.5 million signatures, well over the roughly 875,000 needed in a short period of time. California allows ballot initiative campaigns to pay people for signatures they gather. Oh, isn't that precious? You can get paid to sign this way. No, not that way, this way. No, this way. For this. What is it? Don't worry about it. Here's $15. The cost of gathering petition signatures can vary widely, but it typically runs around $15 for each signature. Well, there's about 90,000 homeless people in the state of California. I'll bet you many of them got that 15 to 20 or 30 bucks. If the measure goes before voters in November, it could prompt one of the costliest ballot fights ever. Love this. And will draw national attention as a litmus test for voter attitudes on raising taxes on the rich. Make no mistake. If this goes through, there's a dozen states that will automatically adopt this. Bernie Sanders has made it clear. Listen to this.
Senator Bernie Sanders in Koreatown tonight, rallying to support a proposed billionaire tax in California.
These billionaires are going to learn that we are still living in a democratic society where the people have some power. The debate will be, if you do the right thing and the moral thing, we're going to punish you. We're going to move. We're going to shut down businesses.
Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders has campaigned in support of the idea, and he's calling it building a better California. Yeah, this is great. Building California just a bit better is pretty much sums it up. Silicon Valley tech moguls are warning it will drive California's wealthiest residents out of state. Nearly half of California's personal income revenue, nearly half of the California personal income tax revenue comes from just the top 1% of earners. Here we go again. Nearly half the tax revenue comes from just 1% of the population. You're going to take the 1% and put them out of business and tax them to death? Where's the other 50, 55% of the money they're paying into the system, or even if it's 40%? What if it's 20%? The 99 percentile is going to now have to make up 100% of the tax revenue, and it barely makes up over 50%. Yeah, dumb is dumb, and California is stupid. After playing with matches since October, the SEIU, that's a huge union, by the way, has succeeded in lighting a tax the rich wildfire by getting enough signatures. said David Lesperance, a tax consultant who's advised some of the wealthiest clients who left California because of the proposal. The many billionaire targets of their efforts have already responded by executing fire escape plans by relocating to other states and reallocating their residency quickly. Brian Brokow, a longtime Newsom advisor who is leading a political committee opposing the tax, said the measure was poorly constructed and would deal a huge blow to the state's budget. No joke. No joke. Look, I'm all for paying the bills. I'm all for paying the bills. But what I'm not for is bankrupting people, good people that are doing nothing but showcasing their power hungry, money hungry appetite and thirst for this type of theft. That's what it is. It's theft. So just know that there's no way that this measure can pass. Because if it does pass, this will be, as California typically has done over the last century, the instigator, the birth of so many socialist, communist programs and ideology that's carried forward all the way from the West to the East. If this goes through, you can promise and you can bank 150%. Make no mistake, this will be the law of the land on a federal level within 10 years in third to half of the states, if not all of them on a federal level. Even at the federal level, only segments it some way, somehow through the IRS, because we get a Democrat Congress all the way, executive branch, all the way to the House of Representatives. We are going to see the most progressive legislation, ideology, remove the filibuster, stack the Supreme Court with far, we'll just say communist judges like Chavez did. And then the third thing they're going to do is they're going to rewrite the tax ways of which we implement all taxes. Like they'll do like a federal VAT or some kind of a value-added tax. And then they'll push states to do this kind of nonsense. Okay, let me tell you who's cool out there, who's still got level head that's fighting for you. Senator Shannon Groves, she's a rock star. She's super smart, super educated, loves this country, loves her constituents, loves California. And Assemblyman Stan Ellis, super nice guy, two good friends of mine, super people. They're winners. They're great people. They have fought for years to hold back the progressive communist agenda of their colleagues. And their colleagues all work together and being in the state there. Wonderful people. I love them to death. They need to fight this, a good fight. This is crazy. Enacting a so-called wealth tax in just one state wouldn't target a small group. Oh, no. It would impact all 40 million Californians in a statement that the proposal trades a short-term revenue for a severe long-term loss. And at least 25 billionaires listed among Forbes magazine's 25 rankings of the world's 500 wealthiest people either lived or had some significant ties to the state based on the review by the Associated Press. Listen, they were tracking just 25 people and the implications and the impact against them. There's 225 billionaires, give or take, or 235 billionaires in California. Now, they've had 11 leave that are like out of there, like took their last dollar and said, we're out of here, moved to various places where they didn't feel that they were living under communism. The scary part was about that is there's about 208 to 210, give or take, that were left behind. They can't do that with their money. And you're going to ask me why. So go ahead and ask me. I'm glad you asked me because it's too tied down. They don't have just stock, okay, that's like publicly traded or they can just take it with them. They're in agriculture, can't move it. They're in huge amounts of real estate, can't just pick it up and move it. I mean, you can try, but I think you're going to have a hard time moving that across state lines. It just isn't going to be possible. So let's be realistic here. Okay, let's put all the sarcasm aside in the humor. You cannot and will not be able to circumvent this tax if this goes through in any parts of the United States. Hear me out. You will 100%, if this goes through, you will see this become a normal tax on high net worth earners, people over 5 million and above. They may exempt your house. Who knows? I doubt it. Your homestead. I mean, if you're over 65 and you're retired and you're taking Social Security, you should never have to pay real estate tax. Zero. And I mean zero. Never have to pay. So the point I'm trying to get here, and the point I'm trying to make as fast as I can to get this understood, is that you have to push back at some time, at some point. Enough is enough. Okay. So when you look at, here you go. You ready? This is the best. Let's define what the actual tax is. We talked about it in the first half of the show, but let me go into details how this thing could really screw you if you're living there, and how this thing could progressively move across the United States over the next 5 or 10 years. This will go like fire in the driest parts of the year in Kansas with a 40-mile-an-hour wind blowing east. The proposed California Tax Act would levy a one-time 5% tax on the net worth of billionaire residents, subject to the asset restrictions noted below, which we'll go into. However, good news. Taxpayers could choose to pay the tax in 5 annual installments. They could, 1% a year. Oh, but wait a second. But with a 7.5% additional fee on the unpaid balance. So let's say about $100 billion, which is staggering. Let's just say it's $1 billion, $1 billion. 10% of that is 100 million. So 5% is $50 million. Now, let's say it's in the real estate. You don't have that much cash, but you're fortunate enough to inherit or to have built a nest egg of $1 billion. And you're going to have to sell real estate. Oh, this is where it gets tricky and interesting. And they know this. They're going to triple dip, and hear me out. So you got this $1 billion. Write this down if you're following along here. This is good stuff. You're going to owe $50 million. There's no way around it. You've succumbed to the idea, okay, I got to pay $50 million. So you might have to sell $25 million, $20 million worth of real estate, and you have to fire sale it or sell it. Maybe you're making a huge profit on it. But whatever you're selling, if you don't have the cash to pay the 50, think about this for a second. 30 million, 40 million, you might have to sell $100 million. You know why? Because unless you got the after-tax cash in the bank to pay the 50, and you got to start selling assets, guess what? If they're short-term, it's expensive because you got to pay a massive tax. To net out the 50, you've got to pay. And if it's long-term, you still got to pay. So you may have to sell literally up to $75 to $100 million and then pay the tax on those assets than to pay the 50 million, which means this tax isn't 5%. No. This tax is about 15 to 20%. Because if you don't got the cash post-tax dollars to pay it, you got to sell assets that they're going to assess the tax on. And those assets may take months or years to sell, or you're going to fire sale them if they're real estate or certainly illiquid things. This will hit Colorado, Washington, Oregon, New York, New Jersey. You're in Colorado, you're done. Within 5 years, this is going to be on the ballot box. 5 years. You're in New York, New Jersey, this passes. We lose 28, 3 years. Okay? Oregon, Washington, 3 to 5 years, maybe even 3. All the other states that go left, which are starting to go purple, 5 to 7 years or sooner. Either way, your equities, your bonds, your real estate, your contracts, your reoccurring revenue numbers, either way, you're going to get taxed something sooner than later. This could hit Tennessee, Oklahoma, Kansas. Have a reversal of the state legislators into Democrats. So young people are not going to vote Republican. And there's way more of them than there are white males over 50 that vote Republican. White liberal women are voting these kind of people into absolute positions of power. So let's keep going here. Who would pay? Well, let's talk about that. Billionaires with primary residences in California as of January 1st of 26, that's this year, would owe the tax in 27, so next year, probably like April or something like a normal income tax. There is an estimated 255 eligible taxpayers. Okay, I was off. I think I said 225 to 235, some of that is 255. A half dozen or more high-profile tycoons relocated out of state as news of the proposed tax rolled out last year. So the number may be slightly lower. Okay, because I got 225-ish, 230 kind of being the number lately. I know 11 did move out for sure. Those who have reportedly relocated include Google co-founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin. The tax proposal is not based on income. That's a loophole that allows billionaires to pay less in income taxes than the average American. Rather, the proposed California tax is based on millionaires' assets, including equity holdings, often in their own companies. The impact on the most wealthy would vary widely. This is exactly what Biden and Kamala Harris would have absolutely, positively installed had she won. Had he been had he been reappointed and cheated and sworn in as president second term, or she was elected or cheated and sworn in, I don't know, whichever, both. However, they got in there, they would have 150% done exactly this. The unrealized capital gains tax, or better known as a wealth tax. So, I'll give you an example. The Tax Foundation, a right-leaning tax policy nonprofit, projected that the tax would render Tony Xu, the founder of DoorDash, bankrupt with a tax liability of $4.17 billion, unless he could challenge the initiative's asset valuation. See, that's the problem. When you have so much wealth, but you don't have the cash to pay it, it will bankrupt you. That's the point. This isn't a fairness tax one time. This is a gotcha, we own you, you will have nothing and be miserable all the way to your zeroed out savings account. That's what this is. This is by design. This is one of the most progressive communist tax bills, that's what it is, tax bill, communist by far, in the history, probably of the world. I mean, they don't even do this in England, which has some of the most progressive, highest tax rates, and I don't even want to call it, but kind of the communist manifesto of taxation that's been implemented for years. So I just want to make sure we're really clear about this, and that is this bill. Okay, the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, which is a left-leaning think tank, because we already got the first part in there about right-leaning, supports the California billionaire tax, saying that the One Big Beautiful Bill Act cut health care and food support in part to pay for tax cuts for the very wealthiest Americans. Whoa, wait a second. Hold on. That legislation supposedly gives more than $1 trillion in tax savings to the richest 1% households over the next decade. Hang on a sec. That's not true. You have to earn that tax cut. You have to create industry, products, services, revenue, taxes. It's not like they just hand you a tax. It goes in and applies across multiple different business facets and business categories. Small business, the Latinos, the men and women that come here legally, that work hard to start a business. I don't care if it's a Mexican restaurant or it's a spaceship and you're building rockets. The Big Beautiful Bill was a wonderful bill. And it was a creator of jobs. It's a creator and cutter of red tape. But it created huge opportunities for the Latino small business community. I know this. I was on a show with the gentleman who runs the Small Business Chamber of Commerce for Latinos. Wonderful guy, very smart guy, Democrat, hardcore Democrat. But he goes, look, I got to tell you, the BBB, the Big Beautiful Bill, was an amazing bill that's going to help the small business Latino owner. I know, I saw it. He talked about it. I saw it. It was right. So it helps, but you got to earn it. If I earn $1 million or $10 million, then my taxes may have been gone down a little bit, but the money that you earned was generating a GDP return. In other words, it's part of the ecosystem. So the ITEP, which is, the left side, added in the analysis that ultra wealthy households have many ways to enjoy a lavish lifestyle without selling most of their holdings. And so they can largely avoid the individual income tax. Hold on. If they're enjoying many ways to enjoy a lavish lifestyle, they're spending money. Now, we could have all of these wonderful tech companies, Meta, Google, Amazon, Apple, be formatted and relocated to South Korea. And the benefit is our money would go over there to buy the products that we now buy here and stays here. I mean, people are stupid to not realize that when you cut taxes, you increase tax revenue. I'll give you an example. I'm just going to do a very simple, logical example. If President Trump says, we're going to have a flat tax of 10% across the board. That's it, just 10%. Anybody making over, let's say, $100,000. Anybody making under $100,000, you pay no income tax at the federal level. Really, you don't pay none. You do the math. Do you know that nobody would cheat? We lose an annual estimate of $1 trillion a year in tax revenue from cheaters or just incompetent people. Sometimes I shouldn't say it's all cheaters. Some people just do their taxes wrong or they underestimate, and it might be legitimate. Oh, I just didn't know. And that's okay. There's going to be a portion of those people out there. Those people should not be penalized. The IRS should just point out the issue and work with them. I'm a believer in communicative solving solutions rather than being, hard ass about it. And so, but for the ones who do cheat, which is about $1 trillion, that's the cheating number. If you lower their liability to just 10% or 15, let's say, or even 20, just 20 across the board, limitations on some of the deductions, but you increase the deductions for like heavy equipment that's 100% made in America or made in America products, I can mathematically show you in 20 to 25 years, not only are we not deficit spending, we'll cut the debt in half. Our bonds will skyrocket, our rates will drop, our business model will go to 7, 8, 10% GDP. It would literally do that. I've said it before. It's just math. Our tax code is too complex. But in the meantime, until that day happens, you can't go out there and penalize these guys, whether you like their politics or not, whether you like their lifestyle or not. Who cares? They're creating jobs. And you're going out there and you're pulling money from them because you want to fund programs in California or in America, if this thing goes nationwide, which it will eventually, programs for people. A lot of them can work. A lot of them are here illegally. A lot of our own citizens don't have these kind of benefits. And you're penalizing them by offering it to other non-citizens or citizens that are capable of working. And you're penalizing the people by the very definition, the job creators. You think that's fair? Think about this. The national tax that they call this thing. Well, let me give you a Bernie Sanders quote. Oh, this is good. Oh, good old Bernie. You want to feel the burn? Put Bernie Sanders in charge of this kind of stuff as president back in 2016. Thank goodness there was some madness to the method and we kept Bernie Sanders out from getting a Democratic nomination because they wanted that Hillary cut a deal with Obama that she would stand down. Okay, she would stand down later, of course, but she wanted the nomination in 2016. They took it from Bernie, gave it to Hillary. When she didn't win, she was going to go run against Obama. He's like, I read Trump again. And he's like, no, we're not doing that. Hold on, Tiger. Hold on. She wanted it to go up against Obama back in the day. He goes, no, I'll make you Secretary of State. She wanted it desperately in 2016 to go up against Trump. She would have won. They stripped the nomination from Bernie. He was going to get it. He was so popular. So let's talk about that. Senator Bernie Sanders has been a long advocate for a national wealth tax. His Make Billionaires Pay Their Fair Share Act, co-sponsored by nobody, you're going to love this, by Rep. Ro Khanna, Democrat from California, is the latest effort introduced in March of this year, just last month. The national tax would levy a 5% annual, not one-time tax on the estimated $938 billion in the U.S. This is his national one. Okay, not one time, but rather, first of all, let me get back to this. The national tax would levy a 5% annual, not one-time tax on the estimated 938 billionaires in the United States, estimated to raise $4.4 trillion over the next 10 years. You're sucking that right out of the economy. In the first year, the bill would give a $3,000 payment to every man, woman, and child in a household earning less than $150,000. That bill is pending. I'm going to tell you something. Listen to me carefully. If we lose the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives in 28, which there's a likelihood we could, it's highly probable, this is 100% the law of the land. Remove the filibuster, stack the Supreme Court, change voting laws, a national wealth tax, 100%. Do not be mistaken. If this passes in November, I think this thing is going to pass because I'm going to tell you why. You're not going to like this, but I'm going to tell you why. It got 1.5 million signatures, and 99% of Californians do not pay, and they do not have to have any of this hit their pocketbook. Zero. Why not? Let's make a guy worth $250 billion pay. You understand? We're talking $3 or $4 billion, okay? I mean, if you were $250 billion and 5%, he might pay 12 to 15 billion, could pay 20 billion because he's got to sell assets. I mean, this is insane. This is the beginning of communism with right in your face. Anybody who tells you that this is a good bill, that this bill should go through, is nothing more than somebody who's either jealous, vindictive, donated their brain to science in recent years, or reads Braille because they can't see the deficiencies and how bad this is going to cost both California and the federal government. And I don't mean no disrespect to blind people. I'm talking about these guys are blind to understand the economics of what we're speaking to here. This is not only crazy, scary, but it is 100% out of control. I would say the likelihood of this passing is 75% at this point. If they get 3 million signatures, it's going to pass. And we'll know a little bit about that. There'll be some talk about it. Now, Gavin Newsom has threatened to veto this, saying this is crazy. Well, Gavin, I got good news and bad news. We've talked before, man. You and I have had dinner together. And let me tell you something. I just saw you recently here, too. Didn't have a chance to really state my peace of mind and to help you a little bit on some of your other initiatives that you need help with. California needs a lot of help. But I can say this. If this goes through and the legislative body is able to overrun their veto, which I think they do have the numbers. I think the numbers are there, that they could override his veto. This bill is 100% the blueprint for America in 2032. By 2032, it's a done deal. You've got California, big ranch there, farmland, Sacramento, you got agriculture. You can go to Washington, Oregon. You got beautiful farms in Tennessee. You've got farms all around the Midwest in the central parts of America, from Iowa, Minnesota, down to Texas. They will find a way. They're already finding ways to turn the most red districts and red states purple. They're moving Democrats. They're moving card-carrying communists into districts, and they're moving in religious people. The whole Muslim thing is blowing up in Texas, New York, New Jersey, California, Oklahoma, Florida. It's blowing up everywhere, and they're voting. Look at what happened in Texas several months ago. In Fort Worth, Texas, a local district that was Republican for over a century, went hardcore Democrat. For over 100 years, it was right side blue, red as it can be. Then it became purple, and then it went hardcore blue. And over 100,000 Muslims voted in this district to ensure that their Democratic candidate shared their views. It was Mamdani Jr. is what it was. This cat rolled into Texas, had his supporters, rolls in, gets voted in, and they use that as a tool to start to show the measure of the power of the Islamic vote. This is a force to reckon with. These people are not joking around. What their job is to bring the ideology, convert people, establish organic growth through families, ministries into prisons and low income housing and all the areas of which we have fatherless families in order to ensure that their religion, which is really just a political party of suppression and hate, is viable to change the political series of elections to go hardcore left. So I just want to thank everybody for listening. Another great show next week. I will be looking forward to it. We're going to talk more about the Iranian conflict in detail, but this California bill is insane. It's crazy. And even Stevie Wonder could probably say, I'm not for it. I can see the writing on the wall. Thank you so much for joining. I am tuning out, and we will be talking to you again in another week. Thank you so much.